Trump's had enough. Behind closed doors, he calls Netanyahu's war pointless and blames him for dragging it out to stay in power. Now Trump's base is turning on Israel. His own envoy is investigating Gaza. Even Israel's former PM says, "We've killed enough." A rift is growing between America's most controversial president and his most controversial ally. According to multiple officials within the Trump administration who spoke to The Atlantic, US President Donald Trump has grown increasingly frustrated with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The officials said Trump now believes Netanyahu is deliberately prolonging the war in Gaza to serve his own political survival, rather than pursuing any remaining strategic military goals. That view, reportedly shared by several of Trump's close aides, stems from the assessment that Israel had already achieved its primary objectives in Gaza, and that further escalation may be counterproductive. The rift comes amid rising pressure on the United States to take a firmer stance on Israel's conduct in the conflict. Trump's frustration also reflects the growing divide within his own political base, particularly among younger conservatives and isolationist Republicans who are increasingly critical of the US-Israel alliance. Trump's desire to bring the conflict to a close is not only rooted in humanitarian concerns, but also in political calculus. His administration is eager to demonstrate progress on long-standing foreign policy issues like the Israel-Palestine conflict and to revitalize the Abraham Accords, a signature diplomatic achievement of his first term. While there is no formal break in US-Israel ties, the report suggests that Trump is distancing himself from Netanyahu's wartime decisions. His envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, met with Netanyahu in Jerusalem on July 31st to discuss the stalled ceasefire negotiations with Hamas. Witkoff was also scheduled to visit Gaza, a rare move for a US official, to assess aid distribution efforts by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a US and Israeli-backed initiative that has come under scrutiny following repeated reports of civilian casualties near its aid hubs. The foundation's activities have drawn widespread criticism after the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry claimed over 1,000 Palestinians have been killed near its sites. Israel has challenged those figures as exaggerated. According to officials familiar with the matter, Trump has tasked Witkoff with forming an independent assessment of both the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the viability of the Foundation's aid operations. Trump's approach to the Gaza conflict appears to be evolving, in part due to shifting sentiment within the Republican base. He has expressed concern that a growing number of supporters in the Make America Great Again movement are losing faith in Israel. According to the Financial Times, Trump recently told a prominent Jewish donor,
"My people are starting to hate Israel."
This growing skepticism, particularly among younger conservatives, is reflected in recent polling. A July CNN poll showed Republican support for Israel's war in Gaza has declined, with just over half now saying the military action is fully justified. A separate Pew Research poll from April found that unfavorable views of Israel among young Republicans have risen significantly since 2022. Trump has publicly acknowledged the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. When asked during a recent press conference whether he believed Netanyahu's claim that there is no starvation in Gaza, Trump replied,
Mr. President, Prime Minister Netanyahu said there's no starvation in Gaza. Do you agree with that assessment?
I don't know. I mean, based on television, I would say not particularly, because those children look very hungry, but we're giving a lot of money and a lot of food, and other nations are now stepping up.
Mr. President, do you think Israel has done all it can do to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza?
Well, I think nobody's done anything great over there. The whole place is a mess. It'll get straightened out, but it's a mess. They have to get food and safety right now. And ultimately, look, Hamas did a horrible thing, and they paid a big price, but Hamas did a horrible thing. But I always said, when you get down to the last 20 or 10, they're down to 20. We got a lot of hostages out, And you helped us, by the way.
Yeah,
but we got a lot of hostages out over the last 6 months that I've been in. But I always said when you get down to the final 20, they won't release them because that's like their shield. Very unfair. And so something's going to have to be done. And they were really unwilling to talk. But I've said that. You'll get down to the final 10 or 20. It turns out to be 20. I thought that would be the number. I said, they're not going to be dealing with us. And, many of the hostages are now dead, you know that. And now possibly the fight will have to be a little bit different, but they have totally changed now. They don't want to give hostages. Very unfair. You have 20 living people, in this case living. You have many dead people, too, that they want to get
a long time as well.
Yeah, they have 20 living people. And I told Israel, I told Bibi that you're going to have to now maybe do it a different way.
Do you think a ceasefire is even possible, Mr. President?
Yeah, a ceasefire is possible, but you have to get it. You have to end it.
On his Truth Social account, Trump posted on July 31st.
The fastest way to end the humanitarian crises in Gaza is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages.
This comment reflects his continued position that Hamas bears primary responsibility for prolonging the conflict. But it also underscores his urgency to bring the war to an end as he juggles foreign policy, political optics, and his presidential campaign. While Trump has not yet made any major policy changes regarding Israel, sources say the president is re-evaluating the US posture on aid and ceasefire negotiations. For now, his focus remains on achieving a resolution that aligns with American interests and avoids alienating parts of his base. As Trump's envoy gathers facts on the ground, the president appears to be walking a careful line, defending Israel's right to security while signaling growing impatience with Netanyahu's strategy. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert is sharply critical of his successor, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the war in Gaza. Olmert believes the violence has gone too far and that Israelis have allowed themselves to become consumed by rage. In an interview with Der Spiegel, Olmert said,
I don't think anyone in a position of responsibility can logically explain what we are doing there. I am convinced that we already achieved 1 year ago all that could be achieved within the scope of this war. At that point, if not sooner, we should have said, it's enough. We have killed enough, we have destroyed enough, we have weakened them sufficiently. At that point, we should have finally posed the decisive question to the government. Do they really want to bring back the hostages?
As Olmert reflected on the government's choices, he recalled a pivotal moment when diplomatic options had been placed on the table, options he believes were ultimately disregarded.
The Qataris conveyed a message at the time that Hamas would be willing to exchange all 251 hostages immediately. My first thought was that the government wouldn't even consider it. The mood in the country made it impossible to even consider such a thing. It would have at least removed this huge burden from our shoulders, or rather from our hearts. These feelings of guilt and failure have driven us since then.
Olmert warned that the continuing military campaign has cost Israel dearly, not only in lives lost, but in the erosion of international support and legitimacy.
To be clear, I have never spoken of genocide. But let me explain. On March 18th, we lost the support of the international community because on that day, we clearly and knowingly violated an agreement that was intended to produce a lasting ceasefire. By doing so, we lost all legitimacy. There are a number of events that could be seen as war crimes. More than I can list. More than anything, though, it is the illegitimate war that is being waged out of the personal political interests of the Prime Minister. As a consequence, Israeli soldiers are dying, additional hostages may be losing their lives, and many innocent Palestinians are being killed. That is a crime. It is unforgivable.
For Olmert, the tragedy lies not just in missed opportunities for peace, but in the collective descent into a cycle of violence and loss. His words serve as both a warning and a plea for a different path forward, one that breaks with the politics of anger and retribution.